Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Megan Wallach, and I'm one of the Assistant Directors in Employer Services. Welcome to our Winter Employer Advisory Committee meeting. To clarify, this meeting is for CalSTRS employers and employer partners. If you're a member, the content in this meeting is not geared towards you. So you'll want to visit CalSTRS.com and check out our Client Advisory Committee for information and updates for our membership groups, or contact us using the various options available on CalSTRS.com. So a couple of housekeeping items, as always, before we get started. You'll see a QR code on your screen. This will take you to all the information for today's meeting, including the agenda and presentations. The chat is not enabled, so please use the raise hand feature and we'll send an invitation to unmute your mic to ask your questions. That being said, I historically refer to this feature as a chat because it looks the same as a chat on my end. So if I accidentally do that, I apologize for any confusion, but there is not a chat feature. We might need to table some questions, take them offline in the interest of time. So if you have a question you're unable to ask, please email advisorycommittee@calstrs.com and we'll follow up with you that way. Now that we've gotten all that out of the way, you'll see we have a new co-pilot here today, Nicole Snyder. I know we shared in our last meeting that Nicole has taken the helm as our other assistant director. So before we jump into the agenda and you take us through that, Nicole, I know a lot of folks are familiar with you. They've seen you before, but it's been a while since you've been on the front end of EAC. And we do have some new folks. So do you mind sharing just a little bit about yourself before we kick everything off?
Thank you, Megan. Hello, everybody. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Nicole Snyder, and I've actually been with Employer Services since 2011. I had to think about that as I was getting ready for this today. That feels like a very long time. So for those of you who have also been with your schools for a long time, you may recognize me from being a lonely analyst and actually coming on and presenting at EACs back in the day. But I, came off of actually doing the presentations and was more back of the house type stuff. But I was never far, was never gone. A lot of you I still talk to on a pretty weekly basis. So very happy to take on this new role in Employer Services with Megan and under Jennifer, and I'm looking forward to continue working with you guys in this new role. So thank you. To go over the agenda really quick, Jennifer's gonna be first up, give us some updates from her. And then we're going to move into the ACH reminders from our financial services branch. We're going to do the legislation updates with Joycelyn from governmental relations. And then Mia and Kitty will come on to talk a little bit more about the Secure Employer website and some of the training opportunities we have coming up. And then we'll finish off with open forum for some questions, any questions you guys might have, and to talk about what we want to hear at any of our upcoming, at the next EAC. So with that, I'm going to throw over to Jennifer.
Unmuting is challenging sometimes. Thanks, Nicole. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. Again, my name is Jennifer Spangler. I'm the Director of Employer Services. And I just wanted to share a short message before we get into the agenda. So I really just want to thank you guys for continuing to work with us as we address an unprecedented number of inquiries that we've been receiving in our early phase of the system implementation. I know it's challenging for you all. It's challenging for us as well. We're 134 days in at this point, and as with any project of this scale, we've encountered a number of system issues in that time. We're working to address the system issues as quickly as we can, placing highest priority on items that impact ability for you to report, as well as those that may directly impact a member's benefit payment. So just know that we are placing the highest priority on, your items that impact you the most highly, as well as our membership broadly. We want to ensure that you can submit reporting. So that's our goal. And we're dedicated to supporting you through the new processes that were released with this implementation and resolving any issues that pop up along the way. All that being said, it will take time to address those issues and improve our response times. We know they're not what they used to be, and we are working very hard to improve those as we move forward. So our staff are very dedicated, each and every one of them, to providing you with a high level of service, and are working hard to do that every single day. So I want to take this opportunity to thank my staff behind the scenes, as well as all of your staff and you all who are working on the front line to get reporting into us. Please do continue to send questions and requests for information that you need from this venue, as well as our future training sessions. We're developing new training and outreach as we go along, and that's something that we want to be very responsive to your needs. So please communicate with us and let us know what you need. We hope to provide you with the most useful and pertinent information during today's session. And we'll do that by starting with Jennifer Ellis and information on the ECH updates.
Thank you, Jennifer. Good afternoon. My name is Jennifer Ellis, and today I'm presenting on some ACH reminders. Next slide, please. For today, we're going to be covering two topics, the file identifier number, and then also interactive voice response or IVR system. Okay, next slide. All right, so when you're submitting an ACH or check payment, please continue to provide the full file identifier if it's relevant to this payment type using this format. The DB and CB contributions and DB, CB penalties and interest, the format's really similar to the old way. For DB contributions, it would start off with STM1 plus 5 zeros plus the summary, the payroll summary ID. So example would be STM1, 1 or 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, and 1, 2, 3, 4. And for contribution payments, for CB contribution payments, it'd be VDF1 plus 5 zeros plus the payroll summary ID. So example would be VDF1, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 5, 6, 7, 8. And for DB and CB penalties and interests, the invoice number or the file identifier number has not changed. It's the invoice number that starts with the 2002 and ends with 4 unique numbers. So 2002, 1, 2, 3, 4 is my example. Additional notes. So the payroll summary ID, this is something new with the new system. This is found on the Secured Employer website after you submit a contribution file. And I've also noticed some payroll summary IDs could be more than 4 digits. So if it's 5 digits, you will reduce one of the zeros. So the file identifier remains 13 characters total. Okay. Next slide. All right, interactive voice response system. For ACH debit employer, you can choose 2 payment methods to make an ACH payment to CalSTRS. The first one, which is mostly used, is online via the www.gov1.com PayCal site. The other one, I'm not sure if a lot of you are familiar with, but it's the telephone system via the IVR, and the number is 1-800-554-7500. So in case of disruptions to the PayCal payment portal, or if there's internet or email services disruptions, please utilize the IVR system to make your payments. Please schedule your online or IVR payments by 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time to make a payment for the next business day. So for further instructions on how to make an IVR payment, please reference page 25 of the ACH Debit Payment Process Guide located on our ePayment site, and there's a hyperlink if you would like to access it. A couple things you do have to keep in mind when you use the IVR system. So you have to have 2 information. First one is your 5-digit employer code. The second one is a 4-digit security code. So for the security code, each ACH debit employer account has 1 master security code, and each time you add a new user, it is updated. So with that, that's the end of my presentation. Does anybody have any questions regarding either file identifier or IVR system at this time? Okay. Doesn't seem like there's any.
You do have a few questions popping up in the chat, Jennifer.
Okay.
So the first one's from Leanne Ray. Can we get an invitation to Leanne? You should be able to unmute your mic and ask your question.
Hi, good afternoon. I did unmute. You guys can hear me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, great. I'm just looking at the slide and it gives you that ACH debit payment process guide located on the ePayment site. And you said the hyperlink, but the slides don't actually give us access to that hyperlink. So can you give that over in the Q&A or in the chat or something?
Yeah, we could do that. If you go, do you have an actual downloaded I guess PowerPoint of
I
these slides?
do. I
Okay.
do.
And then if you click on the site, it doesn't open up.
It wasn't working for me, so that's why I'm asking. So
Okay.
I can try it again.
Okay. I don't know if we can send it in chat or I could email you after the meeting, the site.
We don't have a chat feature, but we can send out the link via
Okay.
the advisory committee mailbox if it's not working. Yeah.
Okay, it just could be my slide. I'm sorry. Okay.
That's okay.
But
We
yeah,
want
if
you
you
to have
guys want to
access.
send that out, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Okay, next up we have Lisa Knight. Can we get Lisa an invitation? You should be able to unmute.
Hi, I had a question about the STM numbers.
Yes.
I just sent my file and I had to guess at the STM file number and I thought I was correct. The the payroll ID had 5 digits, and so I dropped one of the first digits instead of dropping one of the zeros, and now I'm worried about whether you'll be able to find the file and match up the payment. What should I do now?
So if you could send us an email at the epayments@calstrs.com, giving us the full 5-digit payroll summary ID, and then just give us a little bit more information regarding the payroll the payment, then we can make sure that on our end, when we see the payment, we can manually adjust it so that it'll still apply to the file correctly.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Next we have Ramona Coker from Stanislaus.
Yes.
Go ahead, Ramona.
Hi, Megan. First, I have a question. You said you're seeing questions in the chat or the Q&A?
No, we don't have a Q&A, but I tend to refer to the raise hand as a Q&A on accident. So I was
okay.
practicing. There's only the raise hand feature, and I will habitually refer to it as a chat on accident. I'm trying really hard not to. So no chat, no Q&A,
Okay.
the raise hand. Yep.
Gotcha. Okay, so my question is on the IVR. What do we receive as confirmation? Do we receive an email? I haven't used it, so what do we receive as confirmation after we've made a payment?
I think so at the end of the call, there's going to be a confirmation number.
Just a number that you have to write down, but we don't receive any actual like email confirmation of the information that we've submitted.
Let me take that back, but I believe if on the payment portal, if you selected to receive emails, you may be receiving the email sent to the account. The email address for the account may not be for the user, but each account has like a main email address. But you would have to elect to receive this confirmation. But let me double check and get back to you. I'm sorry, what school?
Stanislaus.
Okay, perfect. But I know for sure there is going to be like an IVR confirmation number at the end. So.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Next we have Nancy Delano. Can we get Nancy an invitation? You should be able to unmute when you're ready, Nancy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Fabulous. My question's in relation to the IVR system as well. The employer code and security code, you may have mentioned where those come from, but I must have missed it. Where do those numbers, where do we get those numbers from?
So for the employer code, it's on when you go on the payment portal. So if you're a county, so normally it's the 2 number of the county plus 3 zeros. So that's the employer code. Mm-hmm. And security code is when you registered for your account. It's something that you would have had to, you would have been sent a temporary security code, and then you would have to set a permanent one. If you're on the payment portal, I think there's a profile tab on the top, and that'll show you the security code there. But if you have any questions, feel free to email epayments@calstrs.com. We can't see the security codes that you set, but we're able to reset it, and then you could set a permanent one if you guys are not aware of the current security code. number.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'm having audio, or I can't find that unmute button myself. It looks like we don't have any more hands raised. So if there aren't any more questions, thank you so much, Jennifer. And we'll move on to Joycelyn with our legislation and regulatory update.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Joycelyn Martinez-Wade, Director of Governmental Relations. The legislature is back in session. They started at the beginning of January, and they've been introducing bills. They have until February 20th, so we won't see the bulk of bills being introduced until February 20th, I'm pretty sure. But I wanted to give you an update regardless, because there's some two-year bills out there and other things that I want to make sure you know. So we'll go to the next slide. And here's a list of two-year bills. The first three at the top are two-year bills. And then we are anticipating the introduction of our annual housekeeping bill. And so that's why there's no number yet, it hasn't been introduced. But I'll start at the top. So we have the Pregnancy Leave for Educators bill, AB 65. So our board has taken a support position on that bill. It's made its way to the Senate. So the second house, and we anticipate that if there will be action on that bill this year, it'll be toward the summertime when other assembly bills introduced this year make their way to the Senate. The next two bills were two-year bills, so introduced in 2025, but were moved at the beginning of this session to the Senate. So they both are in the Senate now. The first bill was PEPR modifications to the cap on compensation counting towards pensions. It's changing age factors for safety members, and it had a provision in it about employers covering employee contributions. When that bill moved out of the Assembly Appropriations Committee a couple weeks ago, there were significant amendments so that it now no longer applies to CalSTRS at all. So there's no increase in the cap for CalSTRS members, and it completely removes the provisions related to employers covering employee contributions. So that wouldn't apply to anyone. So for the next EAC meeting, you will no longer see AB 1383 listed unless we're added back into the bill somehow, but I'm not anticipating that. AB 1439 was a California Development Portfolio Restrictions bill, so kind of along the divestment lines of legislation. And when that bill moved out of the Assembly Appropriations Committee, it was turned into a reporting bill. So we're analyzing that right now, and we'll see if there are additional changes when it's in the Senate. And then, of course, like I said, we'll have our annual housekeeping bill. It's being authored by the Assembly Public Employment and Retirement Committee this year, and of course, it may be introduced by the 20th of February, like I mentioned, but committee bills have a little bit of leeway, so it may come out after that. There are several bullets underneath it of the provisions that are going into it. And I went through those at the previous EAC meeting, so I won't go through them now, but I just want to make sure they're there for a reminder. So if we could go to the next slide, go there, and the next one, there are 12 provisions. So they're all listed there in case you want to look at them. And if you have questions for me, I can take those. But I'll go through the other pieces of legislation before that. So next slide, please. So that was the view of this year's bills, and kind of I do a slide for implementation that's happening on past bills. So last year we had our annual housekeeping bill, very minor changes to make sure the law was clear on things that were generally already happening. I think the thing most related to employers is on the reduced workload program and making sure that if members take leave, they get paid for that leave while they're working under RWP, that counts towards their 50% or more for the contract that they have to be working to participate in that program if you offer it. And so just noting that, but basically everything is implemented already and wouldn't have changed anything for you. So next slide, please. Looking back further, AB 1997, credible comp simplification. So this, of course, will be a bigger shift for employers. This is going to be effective July 1st, 2027. I will do a regulations update toward the end, but dependent on when those are more finalized in nature, there, of course, will be training both on the side of, let's say, HR and making sure documentation is aligned with the requirements, and then, of course, on the reporting side as well. But that's to come because we don't have final sign-off on those regulations. So next slide. From 2023, going back even further, SB 327 has to do with how far back members can backdate their service retirement when they apply. So it's limited to 270 days by this bill. It went into effect January 1st. And so everything is in place for that. And so this bill will be coming off of this slide for future EAC meetings. I do always want to mention SB 765, which was about the post-retirement earnings limitations and the separation from service exemption and how requests for that came in. So this bill is set to sunset on June 30th, 2026. So the old rules, if you will, the previous law will come back into effect on July 1st, 2026, unless there's any legislation to change it. So the old process for requesting an exemption to the separation from service requirement will come back into play. And then the earnings limit will go back to 50% of the median. And so, of course, that gets provided to everyone so people know what that earnings limit is. We'll go to the next slide. Okay, that's it on legislation. So I'll pause for a minute to see if there's any questions. And of course, I think we come back in May. So if there are bills introduced, up to this point, nothing directly or specifically affecting CalSTRS, but if there is something that gets introduced, I, of course, will be back to let you know about it. But I'll move on to the regulatory update. So next slide, please. I mentioned the first bullet, the credible compensation simplification regulations. So approved by the board in November. They are with the Department of Finance for review right now. And this is true also for the administrative remedy regulations regarding from AB 1667. And so those also were approved by the board in November with the Department of Finance for review. Once Department of Finance is done with their review, we submit them to the Office of Administrative Law, where they have their time period, which is 45 calendar days, I believe. No, it's working days. It's about 6 weeks. So they have their period of time to review the regulations, and then they will approve those or let us know if there's something we need to adjust. And so we're really waiting for their approval to know that there won't be any changes to the regulations, which then kind of is that starting point for when we can start offering training. Because if there's something that OAL brings up, Office of Administrative Law, we want to make sure we accommodate that or work on that before we provide something to you and then have to change it on you. So that's those two sets of regulations, and then probably further astray from what you need to worry about. But we did have a package on board elections for our board members who are elected from our defined benefit and cash balance benefit membership. And those also were approved by the board in November, and they went into effect on January 1st. I'm happy to answer any questions about those regulations. Okay, I'm not seeing any, and that's all I have for today. So thanks so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thanks, Joycelyn. Okay, so next on the agenda, we have back-to-back updates. We have Mia, and then Mia, when you are, I'm sure you'll take your own questions, and then if you want to hand it off to Kitty when you're ready. So Mia's going to kick us off with secure employer website updates.
Thank you, Megan. So yes, I am here to discuss some of our updates to the secure employer website. If I can get our next slide. So we want to talk about some of the system impacts to employers. From Go Live, we've identified at least 94 system defects impacting employers. These defects can vary in complexity and vary in the level of impact. Some are more unique and very specific one-off cases. Others have larger impacts. And as Jennifer had shared earlier, we are looking at prioritizing these system defects to be enhanced based on the impact to employer reporting and member benefits. Of these 94 defects, 22 defects have been resolved. We've also found 54 opportunities for new or enhanced functionality. And in our most recent release, we have been able to enhance 2 of those features. One, I'll be talking at a little bit more length today. There was also a secure employer website announcement about this, was the visibility of pending work items. So we are looking at what are considered true defects and items that are considered enhancements that would truly enhance the ability of employers to get this employment or contribution data to us. So we are considering all factors when we're looking at these system enhancements, and then depending on the complexity and working with our system teams or how these system defects are addressed. Now, for the most up-to-date information, there are release notes available on the employer support portal, so employersupport.calstrs.com under the employer toolkit. You'll see that there are release notes for both the employer readiness environment and the secure employer website. So if you're looking for things that impact you in production, you're going to want to look at those SO release notes. And there should be a version number associated to that document to see that you're viewing the most up-to-date document regarding those defects. If I can get our next slide. So I want to talk about some that were most recently resolved. This is by far not a comprehensive list here for you today. Again, that comprehensive list is going to be available in those release notes. But I just want to highlight a few of the defects that were impacting employers that we were able to fix most recently. So some of these are erroneous message IDs. So the employers, as you're reporting, you're seeing a message ID that maybe isn't relevant to the transaction you're submitting or impacts the transaction that you're submitting in a way we did not intend. So here we have a pay period service credit appears excessive, but it's the first line reported for the fiscal year. Users can now void payroll summaries in a partially processed status. Previously, you would have to request deletion from CalSTRS. So if you are someone who is submitting contribution reporting, you're likely familiar with a payroll summary in a processed status can't be voided or deleted. But in the partially processed status, that was impacting the ability to move forward. And so we've now provided that opportunity to delete that or void, that payroll summary. So we also had another error where reported pre-tax contributions were exceeding the system variance allowed, but these were displaying for reversal records, even when the reporting matched the target record. So this was impacting your ability to reverse reporting. So that's been addressed. The primary phone extension field within the contact details panel in the Secure Employer website, that is on that organization contact maintenance screen, is now saving. So previously, when employers were adding or when you were adding contacts, it was not saving that extension field. That will now save. And then report source administrators should no longer receive the internal server error when editing CAP preferences for report units. We'll go to our next slide. So those are some of the defects that we were most recently able to address. In early 2026, we have the following system resolutions and enhancements. So enhancing the cash balance reporting schedule functionality to allow for flexibility for users to input the reporting period start, end, and schedule end date. For our assignment code 71 and 72 records to no longer display the adjustment does not match previously reported service when the criteria did in fact match. We are updating RWP wizard screens displaying incorrect information. Those were incorrect questions that should not be displaying. If you have seen the RWP employee change request, you may have seen these questions that are not applicable to RWP, so those will be removed, and we're attempting to do this ahead of our peak season for you to submit those change requests. This is also a reminder that if you were not familiar or had not yet seen in any of our prior trainings or communications, that RWP is no longer, that eligibility is no longer through a form or a paper form. It is through the Secure Employer website in an employee change request. We're also addressing some RWP employee change requests return to employer defects and enhancements. So when that employee change request is submitted to CalSTRS, we review that information. There are times where we may need to resubmit the employee change request back to an employer to maybe make a correction if something perhaps was a typo or information was missing that would allow us to approve or continue to process that RWP eligibility request. So these were addressing some of those opportunities in the design. This will also correct another system enhancement or resolution we're looking is to correct the erroneous display of an error message that requires employers currently to save and validate to clear. So the message originally appears when you click save and validate, the error message disappears. But this is if you're not familiar with the particular error display, can cause some confusion, even though there is a current workaround. So we are looking to resolve that in early 2026. Next slide, please. We are correcting an enrollment defect that was creating a DB 2% at 62 membership account when the member is already established DB 2% at 60. Correcting erroneous error message IDs. Again, these are typically for retroactive adjustments when reporting does match the criteria. And then correcting erroneous error message displays related to the benefit program not being a valid option for the payroll detail record. This is typically impacting cash balance reporting. And then to allow employers to submit enrollments when receiving the error message ID that more than one person exists with the same name and birth date under different tax IDs. Currently, if you're experiencing that error, there is a workaround that we do provide to employers to add a duplicate text to the last name and then to update the name later, but we are looking for a permanent resolution to that. Next slide, please. So another one of our system enhancements that we had been working on were related to pending work items. So we had received a lot of feedback related to the pending work item panel and the visibility. If you were able to attend an employer training related to one of these pending work items, whether that was employer reporting requests or sick leave and termination transactions, there were questions and concerns about the visibility. Now employers are able to view pending work items if you are the report source or the report unit associated. What we mean by that is that if there is a pending work item for a district, that district will be able to view the pending work item and the county can view the pending work item. Another district within that county cannot view that pending work item for a district unrelated to them, but the county can see all of them. The ability to complete the pending work item is still going to be based on that employer contact type. So if you are going to process a pending work item and the options that should display do not, you likely don't have the role to do so, and that may be a conversation with your district or county administrator on receiving that access. Next slide, please. So I just want to briefly touch upon the types of pending work items that you may see, and that if you want to leverage any of this information as you're working with maybe your districts, if you are a county office of education, in kind of sharing some of the things you can expect. So employer reporting requests include requests for information, requests to validate employer suppressed warnings, and requests to make an adjustment to reporting. So we are continuing to follow up on outstanding requests over the next few months. And then we're going to begin reviewing our employer suppressed warnings from this year in April. You may not be familiar with employer suppressed warnings. You may have previously heard this as employer approved edits. That's how they were referred to in the legacy system, and in our current SO are referred to as employer suppressed warnings. Now our due date are going to vary by the request type, but adjustments are due within 60 days. And the payroll and employment contact will be able to complete these requests. Next slide, please. Service credit purchase requests are another type of pending work item. So these are requests for employer approval related to a service credit purchase for FMLA or CFRA, family medical leave, Fulbright leave, maternity or paternity leave, or sabbatical leave. So these are requests to approve that service credit purchase. These are not the proactive, if you're looking in our job aids, the purchasable service credit record. So if you were taking a proactive approach, you create a purchasable service credit record and the information is already there when the service credit purchase request comes in. These are pending work items you receive if there is no purchasable service credit record created. So these must be completed within 25 days or the application is canceled. And the related employer contact is the account receivable contact. We also have employer certification of death before retirement. So these are requests to certify termination and sick leave data for a member who has passed before retirement. These are due within 30 days of the member's date of death or the date that CalSTRS is notified of the member's death, whichever is later. And these are related to the benefit contact. Next slide. Thank you. Very similarly, our employer certification for disability. So these are requests for information related to a member who has submitted a disability application. These must be completed within 30 days or the application may be canceled, and the related contact is our benefit contact. These are very common requests we're going to see as folks are retiring ahead of the new fiscal year. You'll see more of these pending work items. So for unused sick leave, these are requests for sick leave data when a member's service retires. These are due within 30 days of the effective date of the member's service retirement or the date the service retirement application is received, whichever is later. And these can be completed by the sick leave, employment, and payroll and employment contacts. Next slide, please. Termination requests. So termination requests can stem from different types of requests, whether that be from our refunds, from service retirement, and that's being service retirement for defined benefit and service retirement for cash balance. So these types of termination requests have a varied due date. So currently for termination requests for refunds, they must be completed within 15 days or the application is canceled. However, we are actively working on updating this to 30 days. Again, this is based on feedback received. So within those 30 days, to be updated within those 30 days rather than those 15. We'll send a secure announcement when this update is made, just so all employers have awareness of that. For service retirement, it is within 30 days of the effective date of the member's service retirement or the date the service retirement application is received, whichever is later. And again, very similarly for cash balance, it's also within 30 days. The related employer contacts to this are the termination, employment, and payroll and employment. Something I do want to mention about our termination transactions. Occasionally, we are hearing of a system defect where, I apologize, the lights in my turned off. There is a system defect related to termination requests from a pending work item. Occasionally, you'll see a social security number or name that data, you'll receive an error related to it. What we're finding when you receive that error, if you void the termination request from the pending work item and resubmit it as a separate transaction, termination requests can be submitted proactively, and that resolves the error. All right, next slide, please. We've also identified with sick leave and termination correction transactions a system defect impacting employers' ability to submit a sick leave or termination correction transaction when the initial information was converted from the legacy system. As we're working to resolve this issue, we'll ask that you please contact employer help at calstrs.com with the client ID. But if you're including screenshots with sensitive member information, we ask that you please submit a secure message. Just a reminder that sensitive information such as social security number should not be sent through email. This should be sent through our secure messaging, just to ensure the data privacy of our members. Something that we do also want to mention with our sick leave and termination related questions. Many of you were familiar with the Express Benefit Report form. That form was retired and is now these online transactions that we are discussing. We do also want to remind folks that if you are using still that EBR inbox address to contact for questions, currently those emails are being diverted to employer help, but effective April 1st, that inbox will no longer divert those messages at all. That will be completely decommissioned. We're going to send a secure announcement to remind you of that in writing. But if you're looking for support on these transactions, it's best to contact employer help at calstrs.com directly. Something that we do want to share related to the Secure Employer website and secure messaging are some of the categories we have available. If you have been using secure messaging, you'll see that there are categories and subcategories to identify your message so that it can get to the best area in CalSTRS to address that question in the most efficient way possible. We reviewed those categories and subcategories and are currently working on an enhancement to improve the user experience to make them more intuitive to the types of questions that we are receiving. And then using the secure messaging and the appropriate category really helps us streamline the triage of the message to the appropriate area. We're going to be sharing more information about when the shift will occur, and then an accompanying training materials will be shared, and we'll share those via SO announcements on when, what category and subcategory should be used. Of course, if you send a secure message that does not have these identified or they're identified incorrectly, we'll ensure that it makes it to the right business area. This just helps triage that to the correct business area a little bit more efficiently. Next slide, please. As we are working on this update, there is one thing I'd like to share here about employee maintenance requests. So these are requests to update employment history, membership status correction, benefit structure change, and the person record merge. At this time, we ask that you contact employer reporting validation at calstrs.com with these requests. So there are things that as you're submitting, if you're continuing to submit your normal enrollment or have questions about the enrollment error resolution, that would still go to our employer help at calstrs.com. But if you've identified something such as the incorrect enrollment date was included, that's where we may contact employer reporting validation at calstrs.com or to update something like a membership date. All right. So one reminder that I'd also like to provide related to our system defects and enhancements. This will also follow with a secure announcement or a SO announcement. We do want to remind for any cash balance employers to be careful as you're uploading your cash balance files, to be aware of how many file headers you have when you submit. We're seeing an issue where payroll lines are duplicated or duplicate headers are sent, which makes it seem like more contributions and more reporting is due to the individual than there is truly. Typically for a cash balance employer for a single pay period, you'd likely have only 2 headers, one for our DB 2% at 60 and one for our DB 2% at 62. Again, we will follow this up with a SO announcement. But just to remind, as you're looking at your file uploads, if you have uploaded a file that you are no longer interested in pursuing, maybe because of errors and you're uploading a separate file, is to make sure to void or reject those records before continuing to process.
Thanks, Mia. So in the interest of time, I want to let Katrina continue on with her presentation and then take questions, but Jose from Santa Cruz has had his hand up for almost your entire presentation. So I do want to allow him to at least ask his question because he's been waiting patiently. And then we'll take the rest of the questions related to Mia's or any other presentation once Katrina's finished her presentation as well. So if we can get Jose a unmute, and Jose, you should be able to unmute and ask your question when you're ready. Go ahead and unmute. And if your question was already answered, feel free to lower your hand if you're. Okay, looks like his question was answered already or he no longer has it. So yeah, let's go ahead and carry on, Mia, if you don't mind, with Katrina's presentation. And then you guys probably have a lot of the same questions and overlap, and so you can tag team a lot of the questions together, and I'm sure Open Forum will relate heavily to a lot of your questions as well. Thank you both.
Thank you. For those of you who don't know me yet, my name is Katrina Gatchich. I'm the Training and Development Manager over the Training and Development team. So we're hosting all of our employer training opportunities, and I wanted to take this opportunity to chat a little bit about the events that we'll be hosting for the remainder of the fiscal year. Next slide, please. So let's start with our webinar training events. We have a number of online training events and offerings for the remainder of the month. We have our employer-specific training events where we'll be covering our credible service, defined benefit membership, and credible compensation as they relate specifically to these employer types. Our employer training event for charter schools is available at the end of May. Community college districts will be towards the end of April. And then later this month, we have our employer training event for pre-K through 12 school districts. That's the 26th and 27th. In addition to that, we also have our trainings for all employer training types. We have our Training Tips Forum, which will cover the process of submitting employee change requests for the Reduced Workload program within the Secure Employer website. We also will be having our Teachers Retirement Law component taught for the Reduced Workload program on April 16th. You may remember Mia mentioned that there's going to be some system enhancements related to that process and how that works within the Secure Employer website that are going to be implemented prior to these trainings. So we hope that this will also help shore up that topic for you all. We can discuss eligibility and program requirements, as well as demonstrate how to actually submit those requests within the new Secure Employer website with all of those enhancements already implemented by the time that these trainings are hosted. Later this month, we're also hosting the Cash Balance Benefit Program Participation course on February 19th, and we'll be looking at unused sick leave on May 14th. Now, keep in mind the unused sick leave course is specific to the requirements for reporting unused sick leave and less of a focus on the system component. And these are all of our online offerings. You can find these on our Employer Learning Center training calendar, and you can register for these courses through that site. Now I'll talk about some of our in-person training events. Next slide, please. So we are hosting 2 training events actually in person here at our headquarters in West Sacramento. We are hosting a new class, which will be referred to as Foundations of Employer Reporting. This will cover components of credible service, defined benefit membership, and credible compensation, in addition to a new course, which will cover the employer reporting responsibilities within SO. And this course will cover some basic SO navigation. We'll talk about enrollment transactions, a little bit about contribution reporting. We will also cover employment transactions such as sick leave and termination transactions within the Secure Employer website. And we'll also cover the process of responding to employer reporting requests. These are currently scheduled for March 11th and May 20th. If you would like to register for those events, they are one-day events. You can come here and visit us at our headquarters, and you can use the links that are available within the training circular that was just posted to our website, or you can also access those links through the training calendar within the Employer Learning Center. So you can use the Employer Learning Center to register for all of our events if you'd like. Now, with the training events aside, I want to talk a little bit about our training materials. Thank you, Jonathan. So we're going, oh yes, thank you. So you can, we'll be migrating our NUSO job aids from the employer support portal over to our main job aid website, which is on CalSTRS.com. So we anticipate this to happen by March 1st, 2026. All of the job aids that are under the heading New Secure Employer Website job aids currently on the employer support portal will be moved to calstrs.com/employer-job-aids. This is where all of our current TRL job aids are located, as well as our job aids for registering and using the Employer Learning Center. Those will be migrated over. The Employer Support Portal will continue to be a resource for all job aids and resources related to the transition to new file format. And as we develop more training materials related to that effort, we'll be publishing them there on the Employer Support Portal. However, all items that are currently under the heading Employer Toolkit on the Employer Support Portal will remain. Those are things like your file specification documents, as well as the question and answer documents that we have from our previous system training. So those will remain on the Employer Support Portal. And before we make that transition, we will make a Secure Employer website and an Employer Support Portal announcement to let you know that those job aids have migrated. And that's it for me. I'm going to pass it back to Megan for questions.
Thanks, Katrina. Yeah, so there's a couple questions coming in, and these might relate to either of you. Thank you for your flexibility with allowing us to get through all the presentations. So I see Teresa Cooper hand raised. Can we get Teresa an invite? Go ahead, Teresa. Oh, sorry, I think I cut you off. Go ahead. Go ahead and unmute.
There we go.
There you are.
Thank you. 2 questions. The secure messaging process. In the old SO system, we were able to message other employers so we can coordinate and discuss member issues between us when we were making corrections. This was a very useful tool. Will we be able to do that in the future? Or did we get that fixed?
I can take that back and provide that feedback to our systems team, and we can include that in our considerations for likely it wasn't designed that way, so I don't believe it's in the 94 that we had presented earlier, but I will certainly bring that back.
Thank you. And then my other question, just mentioned that you're moving the job aids to the regular CalSTRS website where the TLR is, etc. In the future then, is this employer support page that we're currently using, is that going to be going away and we'll be accessing the new SO site through the main CalSTRS website, or because
We're having
sorry. Originally, it was shared with us that employer support portal was going to be the new place for us to go to for all the items to house and help employers with their needs. But it sounds like you're moving it back now to the other site. So what's the end goal?
So we are having ongoing conversations about the employer support portal and its longevity. The original design of it was for the implementation of our new system and our new file format. We're finding that it's sometimes difficult for especially new users to differentiate what's intended for maybe new file format or for testing and what's intended for production. So we are making this change to help delineate what's for production and what's for our maybe new file format testing. But we are certainly considering the employer support portal and how it will exist once that implementation is completed.
Okay.
Our goal, though, Teresa, is to have it easy. So we're once we kind of normalize and we don't have these ongoing big, huge projects that we're doing change management around, we're hoping to make some improvements to where there's just an employer landing page with everything condensed in one place and if it links you to different places that are behind the scenes, different for whatever reason, there's still a landing page for our employers to go to. That's kind of the goal we're moving towards. It's just hard right now because we have the real world and the to-be world and trying to differentiate those for everybody.
Yeah, but we just went through training all the staff at the districts to use that portal first.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we can put a page, we can put something on that portal that redirects you to the other page for production level stuff to make that helpful, just to kind of help delineate it. But we're kind of just in that limbo right now. But the goal is to eventually have everything centralized and easy in one place.
Okay, thank you guys for your time.
You're welcome. All right, next we have Angelica Diaz. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready.
Yes, hello?
Yes, go ahead.
Hi. So I'm actually from LAUSD, and I have a couple of questions. So when we're trying to submit the purchasable service credit, let's just say, for example, like an FMLA leave, it's not letting us actually go in there and enter the time that the employee is trying to purchase because it's saying that there's like an overlaps with transactions. So I'm not sure if you're aware of that. So the fact that there's like there is service credit because employees do get paid half pay illness when they're on a leave of absence. So when we're trying to basically make the employee whole and enter the remaining balance for that that leave of absence that they're trying to purchase, the system does not allow us to go ahead and enter it. It's saying that there's already, I guess, like time or service credit already entered for that period.
Yeah, Nikki, I see your hand up. Nikki's with that group. So if you want to go ahead and answer that question, Nikki, thanks.
Oh, hi, Angelica. Yes, with the service credit purchase area. And we know this has been an issue. It's, I think what happens is when it's for a partial month, BC considers it kind of whole. And so we know we've had issues on that. If you want to reach out to us specifically, I think sometimes there's a soft error and there's a hard error. So we could look at your situation specifically and if not, we might need to file a service ticket to get it adjusted. So yeah, scp@calstrs.com would be great.
Okay. So I did contact Michael Bell.
Okay, yes.
He did let me know that because there is service credit and payrolls already reported for that period, employees cannot purchase that time. But the problem is that the employees get half pay illness. So they want to purchase the other half. They're not working at all. They're at home. It's a leave of absence. Before they were allowed to purchase it, but with the new system, basically Michael Bell said no, they cannot purchase it. I just want to make sure that this is what I'm going to tell employees.
So this is for sick leave?
This is like just to say if they go on an FMLA leave,
Oh,
maternity leave.
yes, yes,
For
yes.
maternity leave, yes. So we enter half pay onus, but they want to purchase the other half because employees in LAUSD get full pay onus and they get half pay onus. They are not working, but we do report the half pay onus. But because we're reporting it during that period that they're trying to purchase it, the system does not allow us to enter the other half of the portion.
Gotcha. Okay. You know what?
I think we
Go
can
ahead.
take that scenario offline and get the details on that particular account with Michael, and then we can do a announcement for the group that explains whether that's a business rule that we need to work on, or there's something else. And so let's look at the mechanics of that. Sounds like there might be an issue with an error potentially. So Nikki's group will follow up with you, Angelica, offline on that particular case, and then we'll do a announcement or update training materials or something to that effect to make it clear for everybody how that kind of works when you're partially paying somebody who's on a leave of absence and purchasing that time.
Got it. Okay. And then I
Thank
have
you.
one more question. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay. So for like the death terminations, if we don't have any kind of news from like the next kin, we cannot terminate the employee here at LAUSD. We've gotten calls from CalSTRS basically asking us to go ahead and terminate the employee because the termination is in the new SO. What do we do, in that case?
That is a good question, and we don't have anybody from our disability and survivor benefits area on the line, so we can take that one down and get some clarity on the mechanics of that, because in the past you had a form you would submit to them, and now we have this extra layer of that termination transaction. So I hear what you're saying. I don't have an answer or someone on the spot, but we can definitely look into that and then get clarity out to the group on that, to everybody.
Got it. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. We are a little over time. If you are a subject matter expert holding on the line, feel free to leave if you have other commitments. Nicole and I and Mia and Katrina are willing to carry on and go through the rest of the questions. If you have your hand up, we don't want to leave you hanging. We probably need to extend the length of these meetings a little bit here, so we'll continue plugging along. If you have additional questions, right now I see James Elkins. Can we get go ahead and unmute when you're ready, James? And if you don't mind also sharing your, most of you do this already, if you don't mind sharing the employer you represent, that helps us as well.
Yeah, I'm with the Placer County Office of Education. I just had a quick question for Mia. In talking about the new like enhancements and things that you've found and opportunities to make things better. Has there been anything discussed as far as when you are looking up an employee with either their social security or their CID number or something, and they populate and you're looking to see basically what their status is, whether a member, non-member, retired, what benefit structure there is? Has there been talks to make that easier to find and maybe even populate on the first page when you click on the CID for that employee to drill down deeper so that you don't have to go through 5 stages to find out what they truly are?
Yes, so there have been discussions on the visibility on pages and how information is displayed. So I can confirm that we're having conversations on it. Because the information is available once you do click on the employee, you are able to see that information. it likely wouldn't be prioritized over the things that are perhaps blocking like contribution reporting. But yes, we are having those conversations and making those considerations as we meet to discuss the feedback we receive.
We just have a lot of people that are basically enrolling people in their financial system, because when they're going to look at the employee and they're, clicking on the CID, all they're seeing is that they're active, which we all know is the appointment within whatever district, but that doesn't truly mean that they're a member or a non-member or whatever benefit level that they're at. Mm-hmm. And so we get a lot of setup mistakes for that with this new system, as opposed to the old one. When you were looking up an employee, it said right there if they were 60 or 62, if they were a member or non-member, retired.
Yeah. I know the membership account status being different from your employment record and the statuses associated with each of your employment records. Yes, we are looking at both training opportunities related to that and potential ways we can make the system more user-friendly, particularly with sub-status visibility for things like we heard quite a bit of like working after retirement. The active status can be confusing, and that being able to see the sub status working after retirement better clarifies that. So yes, we are having those conversations, and thank you for your feedback.
Thank you.
All right, I wanted to give one quick update. Jennifer Ellis had to drop and go to another meeting, but she did have an update. And Ramona, this was in regard to your question. I think she followed up with you directly, but for the benefit of the group, she said she was able to confirm there's a submission confirmation emailed when the payment is submitted via the IVR, and the email will be sent to the email address associated to the enrollment account. So that's in regard to when you make that ACH payment over the phone method. You do get a confirmation email for that. So I hope that's good news for everybody. All right, moving on. Stephanie Rice has her hand raised. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready, Stephanie.
Great. Yeah, I'm Stephanie. I'm from Santa Cruz County Office of Education. Just a quick question. When we were talking about the service purchase requests, something was mentioned about a proactive request. And you had said that the service is already in the new SO system. So what are we actually supposed to do with those requests? Because I have a bunch of those where it's showing like all the service that was able to be purchased is already in CalSTRS. So are we supposed to approve those requests or reject them?
So within the new secure employer website, and just to provide this clarification for anyone who might have that similar question. So there are service credit purchase requests. That's when a member is interested in purchasing that, and you'll get the pending work item if the purchasable service credit record it is not available for them. So if what you're referring to is this seems like a duplicate request, the purchasable service credit record already exists, that yes, it seems that you would reject that request. But if this is something that, and just to clarify, a similar question may have come in through email. If this is something where only the compensated employer approved leave has been reported. So we had someone with a similar question on, hey, they were compensated part of the time. So I was reporting the compensation they received for part of the time on the F496 for their normal contribution reporting. And then the other part of the time, this person was not being compensated and they want to purchase that uncompensated portion of that leave. We are going to get some more information about that and share that through a secure announcement. But if this is truly a duplicate request, you would reject that.
What was the deadline again? Like, when will these requests expire? How long does the employer have to respond?
For these requests, I will just take a peek back at our slide deck here. I believe these were 30 days. Let me confirm that for you quickly here. Excuse me, 25 days.
25 days. Okay. And the last question, what is meant by using the word proactive? Is it just the employee going in prior? Why is it a proactive request? Is it just I was just wondering so that I know
So
how to explain that to myself.
I believe there's someone from Service Credit Purchase who has their hand raised, but I do want to clarify when I say proactive. So a purchasable service credit record is something when the employee goes on a leave of absence that you can submit. It's something that can be done ahead without maybe knowledge that they will later one day want to purchase it. We do have training materials available on our Employer Learning Center and on the Employer Support Portal on creating a purchasable service credit record. But the result, if there is no purchasable service credit record, is that it's a service credit purchase request should it come through not the proactive method.
Got it. Okay, so I can reject the ones that are actual duplicates. Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Abby, I see you have your hand raised and you're from that area. Did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes, I wanted to assist a little bit Mia on her answers. So for those that are duplicate, is they're true duplicates if they have already been purchased by the member. If they have not yet been purchased by the member and they're just submitted, it gives a task to complete to the employers. So the employers will be able to verify that leave of absence and approve it, enter all of the data and everything and submit it. So it cues the employer to complete that portion. Now, in regards to Stephanie's question about the proactive, so for the LOAs, leave of absence, for those that are have to be verified, and you guys used to do it in the manual form, SC 1553, the verification of approved leave of absences. Those are now done electronically in ESP and so. And you can proactively go in ahead of time, just like Mia was saying, and actually enter all of that data and submit it in even prior to the member submitting a request. Hopefully that answered both questions.
Thanks for that additional context, Abby. All right, next up we have Emily Calderon. Go ahead and unmute Emily when you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Awesome. So I'm from Mount Diablo Unified School District, and I had a question regarding the service purchasing. When I click to submit somebody's purchase request, it doesn't show me an approval button, and there's no way I can submit it. Do you know how I would, or if there's somebody I can reach out to?
Abby or Nikki, do you know? Yeah, Nikki, go ahead.
So you're getting a pending request, and then when you're selecting it, it's not saying it's approved, or is it just kind of like you could just see it and then it won't go further?
I can see it, but it won't go further, but it keeps telling me that it's pending for approval.
Okay. We can, why don't you go ahead and have you been working with Michael Bell by any chance? Or
no.
Go ahead and why don't you email SCP, Service Credit Purchase, scp@gmail.com. And let's take a look at your particular situation. Maybe there's a role issue, but we could take a look at it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Correction to the email, scp@calstrs.com.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Sorry.
You said Gmail, yeah.
Performance anxiety, thanks.
Yeah, calstrs.com. Thanks, Nikki. All right, next up we have Letty Rito. Go ahead, Letty, when you're ready. Looks like you're unmuted, Letty, but we can't hear you. Not sure if maybe your mic is muted. All right, let's go ahead and put Letty on hold and we'll get back to you. You might be having some technical difficulty on your end. Next we have, oh, I'm sorry if I say your name wrong. I'm not sure. It might be Myra Gonzalez Bedo.
Yes.
Yes.
I'm Myra. I'm from Los Angeles County of Education, and my question is: are there any future plans for CalSTRS to allow corrections to membership dates without requiring employers to back out reported lines? Just because this process has been especially time consuming when because we have multiple reporting units under us, and we've had to like back out a lot of lines so that they can change the status of the membership and then fix it, and then we have to go back in there and re-report.
Yes, so I can take that a little bit, and Mia, correct me if I'm wrong. The problem that we're having right now is there's a system issue that doesn't allow us to correct the membership date the way we're supposed to be able to. So we should be able to work those pretty swiftly. We have to go through a manual process that creates a long delay, and then in the meantime, folks are reporting. So we have to have, for the internal control purposes, the lines backed out and re-reported in that kind of order of operations. But once we have that ability fixed, we should be able to do those more timely and not having the opportunity for things to be reported incorrectly to begin with, if that makes sense. So we should be able to tighten that process up when we have that ability on our end. But I don't think that there is an avenue. We could certainly discuss it internally, but I think it's related to internal controls. It's just you have to have the right account status to be able to report. I don't know that we would let it get changed and then let the lines sit there incorrectly while we work on the reporting, if that makes sense. So
Okay, because like in the
probably
past,
unlikely, but not off the table.
yeah, just because in the past, like they would be able to correct it, and then they will get the ESN 56 to like back out. I
Yeah.
guess the concern that we have is, especially when we have members that are tied to CB accounts, is we have to do the DB back out, wait for the CB to get backed out, close, and then report. And this can take up to 2, 3 months, and during that time, we're having to remove lines from the report
Yes.
that can potentially cost P&I, which we don't think it's fair for, the employers at all, but that's just been a lot of delay.
Yes.
So we're kind of,
I hear you. It's the way it's set up for internal control purposes, but like I said, we should be, when that fix goes in and we have the ability to remove and add membership dates. That's why a lot of membership date changes or corrections we're getting from folks today are taking so long, is because there's this manual intervention that has to go on behind the scenes. So once that fix goes through, we should be able to do those more quickly. And then there's fewer lines and things that are backing up because we're doing them more timely as we get them.
okay. Is
Yeah.
that something that's supposed to go effect this year or?
I don't know the timeline off of the top of my head. Mia, I don't want to put you on the spot. I don't know if you have a frame reference on that. We can follow up with that potentially in the next meeting with some of our updates and timelines, but I don't know that off the top of my head. It's a priority for me because it causes headaches for my staff as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I definitely hear you, and we empathize because it's frustrating for us as well to have to go through all this mechanics to get it done for you.
Okay. And then like another question in regards to terminations. We recently had an inquiry where the termination request came after the last reporting went through. So that reporting has like an end accrual, for example, of June 30th, but the termination day is like June 12th. The district asked us to fix that. We were attempting to back out and then re-report with the correct end date, but the system is erroring out on our end. It's saying, hey, there's no known employer existent. Is there a workaround right now for that? What we end up doing is just voiding the lines to delay the report itself, but is there a workaround in regards to that, or is that going to be an issue for, let's say, the member that already like maybe retire or ask for a refund? The fact that there's like accrual period that's after the term date, is that going to delay their application?
Yeah, I see Mia eagerly wanting to respond to this. So go
Yeah.
ahead.
So that is in some of the early 2026 system resolutions that we're hoping to provide. So we understand that all the criteria is matching and the system is providing you an error, even though you've matched the criteria to do the reversal.
Yeah.
In terms of a workaround, you would need to contact employer help at calstrs.com for further assistance with that issue. I believe we can make an internal change temporarily to allow the line to be reversed. And then we make another internal change. But contacting employer help with the exact scenario, they would be able to best confirm that for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Myra. All right, next we have Renee Lamb. Go ahead and unmute when you're ready, Renee.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Hi, I'm from Napa County Office of Education, and I want to piggyback on a few things that have already been kind of brought up, but enrollment errors. So we've had pending enrollment errors that needed to be corrected since October and November. And it's just been very problematic to get help timely. And we've also been having to remove lines off our file to be able to submit and then add them to the next file just to buy more time. A lot of them are substitutes. So one district puts an enrollment incorrectly as a member when they should be a non-member. And then they now have that membership date on their profile. And then they go work at other districts within our county. They go in and check STRS and check the profile and see the membership date. And then they put them in as a member. So it's compounding. And so just when we get one enrollment cleared, and we find another one for the same person is now needing to be corrected. So we have kind of a running list of names for our county for those that now, let's say the enrollment has been switched to non-member, but the membership date is still showing on the profile. So how long is it going to take to get those membership dates removed to truly reflect their status as non-members so other employers don't continue to enroll them?
Yeah, so Mia, again, correct me if I go out of turn on some of this. So we have a batch that's running. So this goes back to right now, we don't have the ability to remove membership dates. And so when they accidentally member somebody that shouldn't be a member, we can't just go in and delete the membership date and fix it. And then in the meantime, you're right, other areas are reporting. So we had a fix go in that did a batch of those because that was the bulk of account corrections we were getting requests for, and it should have cleared errors for a lot of them, and staff, we have a dedicated team of folks working on tracking those and following up on that. So we can look into that and circle back with folks if that follow-up didn't happen. But the ones since then, we're looking at either doing regular batches to fix that. The error that did allow you to non-member a member was fixed, but we can't put anything to prevent people from accidentally putting a membership date on. We just have to wait for that ability. I think it was similar to Myra's question for us to be able to remove the membership date that's existing. It requires a manual work around and some coding issues, and it's backlogging our system development folks with other issues that they're working on for benefit payments and things of that nature. So it's definitely one of the biggest things on my concern list because it creates headaches for you and the trickle down to our staff. But right now it does require that manual intervention. And unfortunately, those are taking a very long time. So we can go back. If you're having ones from October that weren't corrected yet, those should have been patched in a December run we did. So I'll want to look offline with that team and connect with you. You might have had some weird accounts that didn't get picked up in a batch for whatever reason, but we should be following up with you on that. So I'm going to look offline on that for you, but new ones after that, we're just doing our best to kind of tackle them. And we do have a dedicated team of people assigned specifically to that workload to expedite those as quickly as we can.
Yeah, and then the other thing I want to just explain for our experience, and I don't know about other districts or COEs, but we're not getting responses. And we at first was, okay, this inquiry is being assigned to so-and-so. And then we had a person that we worked with. And now we send it to employer help, and it seems like it goes to Never Never Land, where we never get a response or an update. And then we try calling, and the person that's taking the call says, well, I can't make the change, I can't make the correction, but this is who is assigned, or it's not assigned yet. And so waiting on months on these enrollment and correction errors is just, it's hard to track all of them, and even harder, because it could cause misreporting, and then we're having to take lines off and then put them on the next month just to buy time. And it's just a lot of extra tracking, a lot of extra work. And I know that employer help is overwhelmed, just like we are. And I know that they're trying to help, and everybody I've come in contact is helpful on the phone. But it does seem like when we're told just email employer help with your issue, I'm not getting a lot of response. And then when I follow up, no response. And it's just frustrating. And so if there's a way to at least be responsive to let us know where it's at in line or what the status is when it's spanning months is helpful.
Absolutely. So we did have our teams, we have somebody working on this right now, actually. And some of the counties we've already followed up with, we were doing it based on the number of outstanding items. So we do have a tracker where we track everything. And so they're going to be following up with the counties. I do see a note here. It looks like we're still working on the email for Napa. But some of the counties we have been following up on. Here's the number of items we have for you. Here's the status of where they are, what's still waiting to be worked or assigned, and trying to kind of bundle those up a little bit so that you have that visibility. We just can't, kind of acknowledging that we received your email didn't seem like an effective use of anybody's time because it's not necessarily actively being worked, but I did set the expectation with our leaders and our staff that when they start working a request, regardless of if they can complete it or not, they do let you know that they have eyes on it. They're researching it. It's going to require some manual intervention. That's going to take some time, and being as communicative as they can with you. I think staff are just busy plugging away and they're like, oh, I can't do this one. And they move on to the next. And so we need to make sure that we take that beat to follow up with you and let you know that we have researched that or we haven't looked at these ones yet. And if you have ones in your hopper that you're like, hey, this one's more important than this other one I sent you initially, we can prioritize that according to what you have. So we're looking to kind of bundle those a little bit, have some of those conversations with you. We're trying to just do it in the order received, but sometimes you're obviously going to have higher priority things that pop up later. So we want to be responsive to that and work with you on that as well. So you should be getting an email soon from our leaders in that area to kind of partner with you on that.
That would be great. Thank you very much for listening and taking that back.
Yeah, thank you for the feedback.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Next we have Talina. Go ahead, Talina, when you're ready.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, great. I had a couple of questions and you might have touched on them already. I came in on a little late, so just let me know. So one of the first things that I've noticed this week is I'm getting a lot of calls from retired members. They're unable to get a hold of anyone at CalSTRS. And so there's a little bit of frustration and anxiety around that. They're waiting hours to get a return call, or they're on hold for hours. Is there any information you can share with me that I could possibly provide, or is there another way that they can get a hold of CalSTRS?
Yeah, I mean, they can do the phone. The member side is just as kind of inundated as everybody else. So the avenues they have are the contact center phone line. They can also send secure messages through My CalSTRS. Unfortunately, our contact center is just as overwhelmed, kind of triaging all the member side of everything. We definitely are trying to encourage our folks to not forward people, be mindful of when they're forwarding questions to employers or referring the member to the employer, because a lot of the times it's maybe a reporting question. So we're trying to intercept some of those from our contact center on the things that are within our control to not have the members, redirected to you or having you kind of middleman their transactions. But other than that, that's kind of just where we're at. They have those different avenues, the contact center phone number and the online messaging that's available through their My CalSTRS account, similar to your So messaging.
Do they have access to any announcement like pages? So both callers, I think, were trying to get access to forms or award letters, things that they might find in their personal accounts, but then they couldn't access their accounts. So is there a site that they could go to see like upcoming announcements or like any communication related to them outside of like CalSTRS.com? Is there something that's more dedicated to them or has more detailed information?
Yeah, it's typically going to be in their My CalSTRS account. They'll have visibility of all of that, but if they can't access My CalSTRS, that's not possible. So there's some general.com updates and email blasts, but let me take a note to get more information from them on how exactly they're handling that, because we do have a population of members with some issues and they're locked out of accounts and we're working those. So let me figure out what the avenue for them to get updates on that in the meantime is. I know some of them are being handed off to our employer reporting validation team, and we're working directly with the members on those. But not all of them, obviously, if they can't get through, they don't get forwarded to us. So let me take a note and follow up with our contact center folks on that, and we can share that back with the group.
Okay, thank you. The other item I had was, is there any updates on the timeout requests that we're getting when we're trying to log into CAP?
I don't know, Cap. I don't know if you have this one on your radar or our FSB friends can speak to it.
Hi, Cassie
there she is,
from
Cassie.
Financial Services. So Talina, are you talking about it's like the 500 server?
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we've talked to a couple employers that have gotten that error. Typically, when we're seeing that, it's because the employer's trying to query a large amount of data without using like filtering criteria. And so essentially what's been explained to me by our technical support team is that is kind of a broad error. What happens is the system, when the user tries to like query that much data, the system is allowed a certain amount of time to try to pull the data. And if it can't do it in that time, you get that error. And that's for like ISO security purposes, if there's hackers or things trying to get in. So what we've been doing, I just had a call with another employer actually this morning, is there's ways that we can help you filter down your criteria. There's also reports that we have that might be able to serve the same purpose that we can help point you guys to. So I am aware that you were having that issue too, and I had a touch point with one of my staff yesterday, so I can call you, Talina, and we can see if this report or any of these filters can work for the data that that you're trying to pull. I know another employer got it because they were trying to pull a lot of lines in our penalty and dispute management tab, and so there's another way to do that. I think actually what our staff did was just did a download for them. So there's different things we can do to help if you're getting that server error. So yeah, let me touch base with you. I think I'll have time tomorrow afternoon. If you have availability, I can email you and we can set up time.
Okay,
and I can
yeah,
go through
sounds
those
good. Yeah, because I did get an email about the filters, but I can't even get to the point where I could enter like parameters. So yeah, so maybe I can do a screen share and then we can work something out. Yeah. Okay, that sounds good.
Thank you.
I have another question. I know you guys talked about extending the period for refund requests so that they don't get canceled right away. And I know that you guys mentioned giving COEs the visibility to any pending items. Is the visibility piece of it happening already? And then my second part, if it's not, when you guys send those requests to the employers, is there a check to make sure that there is an employer, like someone at that district with the access or an account set up?
So that enhancement was already implemented. So you should be able to already see if there is a discrepancy that you're aware of. I would please contact us with that. We know just in the potential of the world and systems. If you did see a discrepancy, screenshots of what you're seeing in your county pending work item panel, and then what the district was seeing would be helpful. But yes, that was implemented. You should be able to see them already.
Okay. And the 30-day extension, is that already in effect? So let's say I get an email from an employee, their refund got canceled because there was no action taken. Do I have to send them back to CalSTRS to begin the transaction again, or is it something that where we could be a liaison and just say, hey, we know that this was canceled because there was no activity. Can you reestablish the request?
So the enhancement for the 30 days, that is not implemented quite yet. We will put out a secure announcement when that is implemented, so that you have awareness that it was extended. In terms of when that is canceled, yes, the member should reach out to CalSTRS if they're still wanting to do that refund. What we can say on the employer side to kind of assure them that that was, would be taken care of when that comes back around, is that you should submit the termination transaction. You don't have to wait for the pending work item. If you submit the termination transaction, then the termination data is already there when it goes to process. So then all of their, let's say they just had one employer to keep it easy. You were their only employer, that's terminated. The account would be in that non-contributing status because all of their employment records are terminated. So when they go to do the refund, there's no request to make to you because the information's already there. You will still have the pending work items lingering, but if you know you've already submitted the data, you can just void those requests to clear your panel.
Got it. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
To follow up on your first question, Talina, I did get a note from our retirement readiness group. They said if the members about the My CalSTRS or access to award letters live near an MSC, they can walk into an MSC and try to get technical support that way with the folks at the front desk. There's also a What is My CalSTRS page on what is My CalSTRS page on CalSTRS.com that talks about the registration and some helpful updates there that you can point the members to for those that are having trouble troubleshooting access. I hope that's helpful. Thank you for my folks on the line sending in that content. Next up, we have Stephanie Rice. Stephanie, I think you're who we couldn't get to hear earlier, so I hope we're able to connect.
Yeah, I forgot one piece of that last question for the service credit purchases. Yeah. Are we allowed to import any of our service for that? And the one piece of my question that goes along with it is I've been trying to input like a service credit line and I keep getting logged out before I can even hit save, which is really frustrating. So I was wondering if that's being addressed at all, like the timeout for while you're trying to actually put something in the new system.
I don't know on that end. Nikki, Abby, do you have any context there?
I haven't heard that. So,
oh yeah, it's happened 3 times already. Even as we were, because I was trying to do an example to make sure I knew what I was like, that it was working and everything. And each time, now that was the 3rd time.
Oh, and okay, so this is you responding to a pending request, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I haven't heard anything back from like, I had called the help center, I think the employer help, and then I sent the email just explaining that it was taking, it was kicking us out. For me, it's been like with every, I don't know, 3 to 5 minutes. It's ridiculous, but that's okay. I just want to make sure that like, I don't know what else to do to try and get the lines in if I keep getting kicked out prior to being able to hit save. Like I'll hit a piece of the save and it'll save like the top section and then I'll try and go to the middle and hit save again, but then I got logged out again.
Okay. Oh yeah. So definitely a performance issue. Okay. Can you send us an example or give us kind of, I can, we could maybe file a ticket like for a performance issue and kind of give us some, So
sure, I can do that. And then in regards to the importing, do you know if that's a functionality of the system right now? Be able to import lines into the service credit purchase section?
And again, this is for like leave of absences or
yeah, like leave of absences, like if people are trying to purchase their service when they were out or on a sabbatical or on a maternity leave or something.
It's not part of it's an individual transaction right now. Yeah. So even with new file format, you can report a leave, but it doesn't necessarily create the purchasable record for it. So
for now it's manual. We have to do it manual line by line.
I think it will continue to be manual post new file format as well.
Okay.
It's a different type of transaction in the system, so it doesn't it's not on the employment maintenance. They're considered employee change requests. So it's not something that's incorporated into the current or the new file formats. Not to say that potentially, down the road that, could potentially change, but right now that's not the functionality.
Got it. Thank you.
We do appreciate you submitting them proactively because it helps to not have to ping you, 30 years later
Yeah,
when
right.
you're on leave. So I'm glad that you're using it that way.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Michelle Johnston. Go ahead and unmute.
Hello, I'm Michelle Johnston from San Bernardino County Schools. I just had a quick question on Mia's presentation. She said that we could now void payroll summaries partially processed. I don't see that in the system where we could void a payroll summary.
We can take a look and provide some materials related to where those should be available, but this was not previously available functionality. So I'd be happy to follow up with some materials.
Sorry, I have some clarification. So it's not available to employers. We can do it internally. They have to request us to do it. So it's functionality that our staff have access to do.
The presentation said that the employers are now had access that we previously had to request from CalSTRS.
Let's follow up on that because the employer readiness team is messaging me something different. So Bill says that was a typo.
Okay, because we have like 200 files that we cannot delete due to being partially processed or.
Yeah, let's connect offline on those ones. And we apologize for that oversight.
All right, thank you.
Sounds like it still has to go through us to do that. Apologize for that.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome. Nancy Delano. Go ahead and unmute. You should see it there.
Hey there. Yes, thank you. I just kind of wanted to piggyback really quick on Talina's mention of having employees having to wait on hold. We had a district call us last week, I want to say, and they were having the same issue. And I just thought they were exaggerating about the time frame that they were on hold. So I just kind of wanted to piggyback on that to let you know that, yes, it definitely was apparently an issue. But the reason I raised my hand was kind of going back to the system defects impacting employers. So we had we received 3 invoices for P&I for issues that stemmed from system defects. And I filed those disputes and I'm going on almost 3 months now. And I'm pretty sure they were cut and dry and all the backup. And I think one of them had like 30 pages of email content that kind of went back and forth. I just kind of want to know if you guys have a status update on some of those system generated P&I invoices that had to do with system defects.
Yeah, Cassie, do you want to take that one or someone from your team?
Yeah, it's just me. Others had to go to another meeting. So, thank you, Nancy. I can give you an update that we have currently over 500 disputes that we are trying to process. That is just the number of invoices that we're taking a look at from the perspective of the extended criteria that we were granted from management. And so we've got 337, I think, known, and another like 200 invoices that look like they meet the criteria based on the timeline that we have to take a look at. So we are backlogged as well. We are trying to prioritize this workload. That's just that population. We have the population of disputes that employers are submitting on behalf, which we thank you for that. So I can touch base with you offline and see where those ones are, but we are definitely backlogged and it's taking us longer to get through disputes than it normally is. We're trying to get more resources as far as if like other areas can assist us. We're working through things like that, but unfortunately right now I am limited. But I can definitely touch base with you and see kind of where those disputes are at.
Yeah, that would be great. I do have, I received an email from CalSTRS a couple of days ago asking me to go in and delete one of the files that actually was the original file I uploaded that was causing an error. And I don't feel comfortable deleting that file until the dispute is resolved. So that's kind of where I'm at. If I'm going to start getting these emails asking me to delete these original files, I don't really feel that like I said, I don't feel comfortable deleting them until my dispute has been, finalized.
When you say delete a file, are you talking about a dispute case?
No, I'm my original payroll file that was uploaded with
Oh, your payroll
contributions
file.
that was
Okay.
errored out and that they're using as reference to the original errors that
I see.
were system generated. Yeah, they're asking me to delete them, and I'm like, I don't think I should be deleting them until you guys have a chance to finalize your.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I totally connecting the dots with you. We may be in the loop with that. I think I know what you're referring to, but let me talk offline and let me look into that. But that might be when we're working with employer services on if you're getting communication to delete a payroll file. But let's touch base and make sure we're both on the same page.
Yep, you got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you both. Elizabeth Ruiz.
Hi, good afternoon. I'm from Los Angeles County Office of Education. I have a quick question. Have you guys seen any issues with the system labeling people classic when they're new to CalSTRS? Because we have seen some issues that come up like that.
Mia, I don't know if you have a pulse on that, or Katrina.
And they don't have an account. They're completely new
Brand new, and they're getting the
and they
classic
label
formula.
as classic. Yes.
Have we seen that, Mia?
I apologize. Can you repeat the question?
She's asking when they do a brand new enrollment, it's defaulting them to 2% at 60 instead of 2% at 62.
Depending on the member account, there are scenarios where that occurs inaccurately. We are looking at resolving that error if that is similarly impacted. I'd recommend contacting employer help with the specific information for us to further research that.
So that will be employer help, no employer validation, correct? Or would it be following
Oh, sorry,
up
for a
with
benefit structure change, employer reporting validation.
employer report validation? Okay. Will do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I don't see any other questions. I think it was Letty actually that we weren't able to hear, and I didn't see your hand go back up. So if you do have a question or anyone else has a question, feel free to send it into advisorycommittee@calstrs.com and we'll follow up with you. We have some items. We will follow up offline with some folks, and some general updates we will follow up with via either announcements or an email. We'll kind of figure that out based on the content there. Check one message. Sorry, I'm multitasking here. Never mind, that's good. So make sure I didn't miss anything anybody wanted me to say. Nicole, thank you for co-hosting with me. Do you or Jenny have any additional things you want to add before we close it out?
I just want to say thank you all for your feedback and questions. It's helping us, zero in on some of the more, substantial issues that are widespread. If you contact us, we know it's frustrating, and we're getting to your inquiries as quickly as we can. As Megan stated, we are backlogged significantly, just like Cassie's group. All of CalSTRS is impacted. I will add to the .com discussion and the member service end of it that we know that members are kind of contacting everyone at CalSTRS as well as you as employers for any questions. They are updating some of the .com info, and as Megan said, we'll try to get some of that out to you. There's some new FAQs that have been released because it's 1099 season, and we're trying to get ahead of some of the peak season type inquiries that we know will be coming. So we're trying to get a little more proactive, working with our external communications group on getting those things posted to .com, knowing that not all the members can get into their secure messaging and to their MyCalSTRS accounts. So be on the lookout for some of that information. We'll try to point you to some of those FAQs so that you have those readily available for folks as well. Anything to add, Nicole?
I'm gonna take one more question only because he had his hand up and it went down, and it's gone up and down so many times. So Jose, go ahead and unmute if you're there. I know we've gone back and forth a little bit, but I want to make sure we can get to you.
I'm here. Can you hear me though?
Yes, we can. Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm not sure how to phrase my question, so follow along with the scenario, if you will.
Sure.
I've been a teacher for about 20 years, and I get curious and I look into my account for my service credit history, and then I start seeing these micro negative service credit adjustments, to the tune of 0.000495, for example. And then I contact the payroll person in my district, and the payroll person at the district contacts me, and I don't have an answer. So my question is, where are those coming from? And what should we do when we get those questions?
Okay, so if it's you're speaking as if you are the member, but you're an employer, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just clarify.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like I said, I
Yeah.
wasn't sure how to phrase my
That's
question,
okay.
so
That's okay. I just want to make sure.
yeah,
So I would, so when a member calls in and they ask questions about reporting, they're referred to their employer, because the employer is the one that knows what's active, what's not. If you have questions on, you can't articulate to the member, don't understand what's going on with those adjustments, it's something we would have to kind of give you information on. If the member has said that they, the employer is not able to explain it to them or answer the question, then we take those over for the contact center, from the contact center, and then we work with you and follow up with a member to kind of liaise on what exactly is going on in their account. So you can let them know that you're not sure, that you don't understand the errors, and you can send it into us, and we can kind of triage it with you and the member that way. And if you don't kind of want to have to middleman that transaction for the member, you can refer the member back to the contact center. And when they let them know that you weren't able to answer their question, they'll escalate it to us. And we might either be able to answer the question directly from the member or reach out to you to figure out what's going on the account to get them a complete picture.
And the reason I bring it up is because, I take the time to look, for example, and then I see these adjustments, if you will, with no other information. There's like no numbers to it. There's no dollars to it. There's just a simple negative 0.00 whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't know. I didn't do that.
Yeah.
That's system generated the adjustment that I honestly can't explain. So
yeah,
people are breathing down my neck for an answer, and I'm like, well, I actually did the research. This is coming from the system. I don't know.
Yeah, so we can tackle it in either of those directions. I mean, I'd hate to put you in the position to kind of liaise on it for the member, but if you want to contact us directly, then we can take the inquiry over that way. Or you can refer the member back to the contact center, and they will send it to us, and then we'll reach out that way. So you have either option depending on how you want to tackle it.
Last thing before you mute me. Going back to the enrollment errors, and maybe it was already touched on, but I don't think I quite grasped it. But so in a case like this, where there's an enrollment errors, someone mentioned it earlier. One district will enroll the person in error. The other people, and I'm talking about subs, will go look into that person's STRS account, see the membership. It's like, oh, okay, he's a member. Boom, boom, boom. All of a sudden, he's a member across 4 districts, and he was never a member to begin with. So my question is regarding the P&I. Once the account gets squared away and he's no longer a member, now we have to re-report. Can we use this as justification to avoid the P&I on those, reversals and re-reports?
Cassie, I don't know if you can take that one.
Well, I mean, because it's a system issue. It's,
Mm-hmm.
it's not really anybody's fault, other than human error all the way around, if you ask me. But that's the gist of my question. Can we, use that as justification to dispute the P&I on those erroneous enrollments?
I'm not as familiar with the actual issue, but let me just say this from like a general perspective, and maybe this helps. So, um, if there are challenges due to the system, and that is the cause of PNI, that is something we would look at. And so, if we get a dispute case, let's say you file a dispute case about this, and you're saying this is caused to the enrollment record, we would partner with employer services to say, like, do you have detailed information? Can you help us with this? And if they're aware of an issue and they know it's basically caused by the system, we could use that as support to look about waiving that penalty. I'm not exactly following I think I'm not in the details of the issue, so I can't promise you that with this specific issue, but just in general, what I can say is, we are aware that, just like to Mia's point, there are defects, they're working on it. And so if there are causes based on the system defects or system challenges, that is something we will take a look at from a penalty and interest stance. Does that help, Jose?
Yes, and you did address what what my question was, and pardon me if I phrase it in a roundabout way, but
No.
you did hit
I'm
the nail on the
I'm
head.
just not
Thank
in
you.
I'm just not in the details on the employer reporting like Mia and Megan are. So they probably know exactly what you're talking about. I'm not in the details. I'm still learning myself. But yeah, good. I'm glad I answered your question. Thank you.
And we do partner with Cassie's team when those requests send in to make sure that they understand what's a system, where the system had a defect or there was a system delay. So we do partner on those to provide that verification.
Oh, trust me, I'm saving all these emails.
There you go. All right, we're going to go ahead and go until 3 o'clock. For those of you who are hanging on with us, we had a couple of other hands raised. I am going to call it at 3 o'clock. So we have Evelyn, George, go ahead.
Hi.
Hi there.
I'm from LAUSD, and actually Jose is the one that inspired these questions.
Yeah, that's the risk we run when we keep going. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's regarding the service credit. We've had a lot of members and retirees contact us, stating they've received what I'm assuming are automated letters from CalSTRS about changes to their service credit. Is there a threshold? Because we received a call actually yesterday for a person who received a letter for an adjustment amount of a penny. And she was freaking out, for why and where it came from. So I was just wondering,
Is this a retired member?
I believe so, yes. She was
Yeah.
a
So
returning work retiree.
we don't have one from service retirement on the line, but from what I remember back in my service retirement days, they'll get an award letter no matter what. There's a threshold on what we'll collect or pay out, I believe. But the letter will still go out to them.
Irregardless of the value, right? Just a notification to them?
Yeah, it's an adjusted award letter. It's a 1210.2 would be the letter, the number on the letter. If that's the letter they're getting, then that's what that's from. Some reporting adjustment came in, something changed from DB to DBS.
Right.
Movie changes something, something came in and changed things around a little bit. And any of the factors used to calculate their benefit changed to whatever 10th. And then that will generate that letter to them.
And we've noticed an increase in those types of calls or just inquiries in general. Is it also related to what Jose was saying about the reporting lines, right? How weirdly there are no earnings or no contributions. No, sorry, there are no earnings that we reported, but all of a sudden you see these 20 cent or dollar something contribution changes that are not associated with anything that we've reported, but the concern or the issue is that these members are calling us and they want us to explain, where it's all coming from.
Yeah, I want to look into this a little bit more because I'm wondering when they are such. I mean, if you have something change $100 or something like that, then it probably is due to something that the employer reported. But if it's pennies that are changing, then it's probably some sort of system thing. And I don't want to flood you all with direction on that. So I want to look into it a little bit more and see if we need to change the direction that our contact center gives to folks. So let me dig into it. and see what we can do. But in the meantime, if you can't tell what it's from, then you could send that to us. If you want to kind of liaison it for the member, or you can redirect the member back to the contact center, and then they'll be transferred to us to look into it. Either way, it'll be on our plate.
Okay. And I'm not sure if this was addressed already in the fixes that went in, but are the lines from the DBS and the regular account still being mixed, or is there an update as to when that'll get fixed so that when we're downloading these reporting data, it's not all in one?
Yeah, that one I don't. Mia, do you know that one offhand? You're
We
saying no.
can research and follow up with that one
Yeah,
as
we'll
well.
have to research and follow up on that one.
Okay, thank you. And then one more thing, just kind of to piggyback on what Renee was bringing up, and I think we try to give the grace of understanding that it's a new system, it's a new process, and the hiccups can be expected, right? But it does get frustrating when we know by law we have to do certain tasks and money is all involved and time. So I was wondering, because there's such a delay in the response time when we're receiving, and we're a LAUSD, so we're huge. So I can only imagine for every other employer how frustrating it is when, you have just so many adjustments and things that are going on. But is there a point in time? In the past, we used to be assigned a specific STIR support staff to us as an employer. Are we headed back towards that, or is it right now just because, everywhere's a fire, all hands are on deck for everything?
We're
Or
kind
is
of
there
in
a point?
we're kind of in a all hands on deck, and we're triaging workloads based on the type of workload, and that's how the teams are managing it. I've definitely received more than one request to return to the single point of contact model, and we can
Yes.
kind of look at that once things kind of stabilize a bit, and if that's something we can do. But right now, I mean, we got to put bodies where we can to dig in and get everyone the help they need. So we're being strategic as we can be to get things done efficiently, but assigning single point of contact right now just isn't really going to be an option. But I do hear the value that it brings to you all, and I've heard more than one request for it. So it's definitely something I want to look into.
Right, thank you. Yeah, because it does get very frustrating when we're sending these emails and then we get communications from STIR saying, please don't resend, please don't, but we have to follow up. We
Yeah.
can't just leave these records just out there forever. So
Yes.
having somebody that we know we can contact and we'll get a response from would really, really help us
Yeah. So
at least keep a status.
hopefully being the work that we'll be doing behind the scenes to kind of bundle and provide you updates on the breadth of what we have on our plate for you will be kind of an avenue to do that. I just can't guarantee it's going to be this one single person will be able to answer any question you have, or that kind of thing. But we're trying to kind of bundle the workloads around it and work with you all to kind of help prioritize what you need done first from us.
Okay,
And vice versa as well. What's more of a priority for CalSTRS of the things we're asking of you. So we're looking forward to kind of opening up those conversations to get through the backlog.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm so sorry. I'm going to call it. It's 3:01. So if you have questions, please send them into the advisory committee at calstrs.com mailbox. Nicole, do you want to close us out with the next meeting and call for agenda items?
Sure, yeah. I was gonna say in lieu of time, go ahead. Normally we would want to talk about what items you guys want to talk about at the next EAC meeting. So it'll be on May 19th at this point. Nicole and Anna and Michelle, I see you guys still have questions. I know we couldn't get to them today. Please send your questions to us in the email box at the advisory committee. And anybody else, if you have ideas or topics that you want us to discuss at the next meeting, please also submit those in email to the advisory committee, and we'll take everything into consideration. And I think that's it. We'll see you in May.
Excited? How many more days?
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everybody. Have a good rest of your day.